Today's briefing. A major security vendor confirms unauthorized access to part of its source code. A widely used education platform investigates a cyber incident, and a teenager is detained in a case linked to a French government data breach. Here's what happened and what defenders should do now. Welcome to your operational cybersecurity roundup. The goal is simple: clear facts, why they matter, and concrete actions you can take to reduce risk across your environment. First, Trellix confirms source code breach with unauthorized repository access. Context: Trellix, a cybersecurity company, reported it recently identified a compromise involving a portion of its source code repository. Key facts: the company says an unauthorized party accessed part of its source code. It engaged forensic experts immediately and notified law enforcement. No additional technical details or scope beyond a portion have been disclosed. Why it matters? Source code repository intrusions are a direct path to supply chain risk. Even absent evidence of malicious code changes, any access to code, build tooling, or secrets stored in repos can enable downstream attacks, impersonation, or intelligence on product internals. Defender takeaway: treat this as a prompt to harden your software factory and vendor oversight. Enforce least privilege and strong authentication on code hosts. Rotate any credentials that might be mirrored in repositories, and validate code integrity with mandatory signed commits and reproducible builds where feasible. Monitor for anomalous repository and CI activity, and review vendor advisories and SBOMs to track components that could be affected. If you run Trellix products, keep an eye on official updates and apply any mitigations or patches promptly. Next, edutech firm Instructure discloses a cyber incident and is probing impact. Context: Instructure operates Canvas, a learning platform used by schools and universities. Key facts: the company disclosed a recent cybersecurity incident and stated it is investigating to determine impact. No further details on vector, data exposure, or service disruption were shared. Why it matters? Higher education institutions and K-12 districts rely on learning management systems for instruction, grading, and identity workflows. Even without confirmed data exposure, incidents involving an LMS can cascade into student and staff account risk, token theft, third-party integrations, and operational interruptions. Defender takeaway: if you administer Canvas or integrate with it, activate your vendor incident response playbook. Confirm MFA on administrator, instructor, and support accounts. Review SSO and IDP logs for unusual activity. Rotate API keys, LTI credentials, and session tokens tied to the platform. And verify least privilege scopes for integrations. Prepare continuity plans for course delivery should access controls tighten or services require maintenance. Communicate with academic leadership and privacy officers so they can align on notification triggers once the investigation yields specifics. Continue monitoring for official updates and guidance from the vendor. Finally, a 15-year-old has been detained in connection with a French government agency data breach. Context: authorities in France detained a teenager suspected of selling data stolen in a cyber attack on France Titres, the agency that issues and manages administrative documents. Key facts: the detention targets a suspected seller of data linked to an attack on the agency, also known as ANTS. The report confirms the involvement of agency-related data, but does not provide details on the dataset, timing, or scale. Why it matters? The confirmation that stolen government data was marketed for sale raises immediate risk considerations for individuals and organizations that depend on official document systems. Even partial exposure can enable fraud, impersonation, and social engineering against public and private services that validate identities using government-issued information. Defender takeaway: organizations that process or rely on government document data should increase controls around identity verification and fraud detection. Tighten step-up authentication for changes to personal data, monitor for anomalous account recovery attempts, and validate document checks against multiple signals rather than single static fields. Public sector entities and partners should review data inventories, enforce least privilege access to sensitive records, and enhance egress monitoring to detect exfiltration attempts. If your constituency could be affected, prepare clear guidance for end users on spotting targeted scams that may leverage government-themed lures. Stepping back, these three developments share a common thread: visibility and control at integration boundaries. Repositories, learning platforms, and government data services all sit at the intersection of identity, third-party access, and sensitive information. Strengthen authentication, restrict privileges, rotate secrets, and verify integrity across those seams. Keep communication channels open with vendors and stakeholders, and base actions on confirmed facts as they emerge. If this briefing helped you prioritize your next moves, subscribe for daily operational updates. Share this with your security team, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next report.